Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It is Saturday, February 14th, 2026. Happy Valentine's Day to everyone listening.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Although, I have to say, looking at the screens this week, checking the portfolios, I don't think love is the word anyone would use to describe the market sentiment right now.
Huh? No. Anxiety might be a better fit. Or maybe just sheer confusion. It's been a rough week for the optimists out there.
It really feels like the world is holding its breath, doesn't it? We're seeing these wild swings in volatility, headlines that seem to contradict each other every 4 hours.
Every 2 hours sometime.
And this pervasive sense that we are standing on the edge of, well, something big, something's about to break.
We really are. It's a strange, strange intersection. On one side, you have the markets reacting, violently, to what I can only call ghost stories.
Oh, stories.
Narratives that scare the living daylights out of investors but might not have any, real substance. And on the other side, you have these geopolitical tectonic plates shifting in Europe in a way we haven't seen in, 80 years?
And then there's the third layer.
Right. And then completely under the radar, you have these massive, almost sci-fi breakthroughs happening in biology that nobody's talking about because they're too busy staring at red tickers on a screen.
Which is exactly why we are here. We are going to try to cut through all that noise. We have a monster of a document to get through today.
It's a beast.
We are diving into Manal Mehta's market intelligence. And for anyone who's new, you have to understand this isn't your standard top 10 stocks to buy newsletter that you get in your spam folder.
Oh, far from it. This is dense. It's forensic. It's written for institutional eyes only.
Yeah.
We're talking about people who move billions of dollars, not thousands.
So this is the real deal.
It's a full stack. It's a 40-page dossier that goes from analyzing pump and dump schemes on Twitter to detailed molecular engineering without even skipping a beat. It's an analysis of the world as it sits right now, in this moment. February 2026.
It is a lot to digest, but the mission for this deep dive is to find the alpha, the hidden truth that the headlines are missing, the stuff that actually matters when you strip away the panic. So give us the roadmap. What are we looking at today?
Okay, so we're looking at 3 distinct worlds colliding. First, we have the AI panic. Specifically, why a ghost story about a karaoke company is currently crashing the entire global logistics industry.
That sounds absurd just saying it out loud.
It is. But it's wiping out billions in value as we speak. Second, we have what I'm calling the revenge of the physical world.
I love that title. It's very dramatic.
It's fitting, you'll see. We're going to talk about why Detroit is making this desperate U-turn back to sedans, why American farmers are quitting in droves, and why the war in Ukraine is transforming into a massive construction thesis. It's all about the stuff you can touch: steel, dirt, concrete.
The real economy, not the narrative economy.
Exactly. And the third world.
What's the third one?
The reputation economy. This is fascinating. We're going to look at how the echoes of the Epstein files are still toppling CEOs years later, and how to trade the fallout from that.
Wow.
Plus, we have to get into the science. There is a breakthrough in something called protein degradation that could, and I'm not exaggerating, change everything for diseases like Alzheimer's and ALS.
Yeah.
It's dense, but we'll break it down.
It's a packed hour, but I want to start with the money. I want to start with the panic. And I want to start with a question for you, just to set the stage for how completely crazy this week has been.
Go for it.
If I told you that a company that used to make karaoke machines just released a white paper about artificial intelligence, would you immediately sell your trucking company?
Me personally,
Oh,
no. I'd probably laugh. I'd think it was a joke.
Right.
But that is exactly what Wall Street just did.
That is insane.
Yeah.
So let's unpack this madness. This is the AI ghost story.
It really is a ghost story.
Yeah.
And to understand it, we have to look at the trigger event, the thing that started the fire. It all comes down to a company called Algorithm Holdings.
Algorithm.
Okay. Now, if you dig into their filings, if you go back just a couple of years, this is a tiny, tiny company, a microcap. They were nobody. Until very recently, they were primarily known for, and you can't make this up, manufacturing home karaoke equipment.
You're kidding. So we're talking microphones, reverb pedals, lyrics on a screen, the stuff you see in a dive bar on a Tuesday night?
Exactly that. Not exactly high-tech, mission-critical logistics software. But, as one does in the 2020s, they pivoted.
Of course they did.
They rebranded. They stopped talking about singing and started talking about supply chains. They're a freight tech firm now. And they released a white paper this week that has absolutely set the market on fire.
And in this paper, they make a very bold, very specific claim.
Extremely bold. They claim their new AI platform can automate freight brokerage. that is the whole complex business of matching shippers with truckers, and scale their volume by 400%.
Okay, 400% growth is huge.
But here's the kicker. Without adding a single human being to the payroll?
Whoa, so zero headcount increase. That's the holy grail of software economics. If true, that's infinite leverage. That's the dream.
If true. And that if is doing a lot of work. But on paper, it looks incredible. It's the kind of thing that makes a venture capitalist salivate.
And the market just ate it up.
The market, which is currently in a state of what Manal calls technologically induced agoraphobia, completely panicked.
Technologically induced agoraphobia. Unpack that for me.
It's a fear of being left behind, a fear of being disrupted. Agoraphobia is a fear of open spaces, but in this context, it's a fear of the vast unknown future of technology. So investors saw this white paper, they saw the buzzwords AI and zero-touch automation, and they terrified themselves into believing that the incumbents were dead men walking.
And when you say incumbents, who are we talking about here? We aren't talking about mom and pop shops. These are big established players.
No, we're talking about the absolute giants. C.H. Robinson, CHRW, and Landstar, LSTR. These are the blue chips of moving stuff around North America. These companies have been around for decades. They have deep relationships, massive infrastructure.
And they got hammered.
They dropped 12 to 15% in a single day.
That is a bloodbath for a low beta stock. These are boring stocks usually. They're supposed to be stable. They might move 1% a week, 15% in a day because a karaoke company wrote a PDF.
That's the absurdity of the current moment. That is the power of a good ghost story. The source calls this the spooked herd phenomenon. Investors are so terrified of missing the next disruption or being on the wrong side of it that they just stampede at the first whisper of AI.
So they're not even looking at the fundamentals anymore.
Not at all. They're looking at the narrative. The narrative says AI kills the middleman, so they sell the middleman. They don't check if the AI actually works. They don't check if the karaoke company has ever even booked a single truck. They just sell.
But our source, Manal Mehta, is taking the other side of this trade. They're calling this alpha. They're saying this is a buying opportunity.
A huge one.
So walk me through the logic here. Why is the market so wrong? Why isn't Algorithm Holdings about to eat C.H. Robinson's lunch?
Because a press release doesn't move physical boxes. That's the fundamental reality check. Logistics is not just about matching a row on a spreadsheet to another row. It isn't just company A needs a truck, company B has a truck.
If it were that simple.
It would have been automated 10 years ago. We've had powerful computers for a long time. This is not a new problem.
Right. It's about the physical world. And the physical world is messy. It's chaotic.
It's about the friction of the physical world. The source argues that these incumbents, C.H. Robinson, Landstar, they have what are called tangible moats, deep, wide moats that a piece of software, no matter how clever, cannot easily bridge.
What specifically creates that moat? Because usually we think of software as the thing that destroys moats, not bounces off them.
Manal refers to this as the human accountability trade. And I think the best way to understand this is to play out a scenario, a real-world scenario.
Okay, let's do it.
Imagine a truck breaks down in the middle of a blizzard in North Dakota. It's carrying a full load of perishable produce, let's say $1 million worth of fresh strawberries that are going to rot in 24 hours.
Okay, high stakes.
The temperature's dropping fast, the driver's angry, maybe he's freezing, maybe the engine is completely blown. The only tow-truck company in that specific county takes cash only, and they're 2 hours away. And the receiver, the big grocery store waiting for those strawberries, is screaming on the phone about the delay and threatening penalties.
That sounds like an absolute nightmare, and you can't call an algorithm to fix that.
Exactly. Who are you going to call? An AI chatbot from Algorithm Holdings? What's it going to do? You cannot automate a flat tire. You cannot automate a driver who is refusing to drive because of black ice on the road.
You need a person.
You need a person. You need a human broker who has a personal relationship with a tow company in Bismarck, who knows the local regulations on driver hours, who can negotiate a new rate on the fly to get a backup truck there immediately, and who can literally talk the driver off the ledge and convince him to stay with the cargo.
So the real value isn't in the initial matching. The value is in the exception management when things go wrong.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Maybe 90% of logistics go smoothly. And AI can probably do that part. It's easy to match a load when the sun is shining and the truck is brand new.
Yeah.
But that last 10%, the 10% that goes wrong, that's where you lose all your margin. That's where you lose the client forever.
And C.H. Robinson has an army of people for that.
Thousands of them. Their entire job is essentially professional crisis management. Algorithm Holdings has a PDF and a background in karaoke machines. Who are you going to trust with your $1 million shipment of strawberries?
When you put it that way, it's not even a contest. It's the difference between a simulation and the real world.
And that's the core of the thesis. The source even references a framework from Goldman Sachs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a pair trade framework that says you should go long on physical execution and regulatory entrenchment. Basically, you bet on the companies that actually do the hard work in the real messy world.
So the verdict from Manal is pretty clear.
Crystal clear. Buy the dip. These companies, CHRW and LSTR, are being sold at a massive discount because of a ghost story. The execution risk for a startup like Algorithm is enormous, and the incumbents aren't just going to roll over and die.
It's amazing how quickly people forget that moving atoms is infinitely harder than moving bits. We get so seduced by what's on the screen that we forget about the road.
We really do.
And that brings us perfectly to our next section. We're moving from the trucks to the cars themselves and the people who are trying to afford them. This is the revenge of the physical world.
This is a story of Detroit's humiliation. And frankly, it's a story of incredible hubris. It's a self-inflicted wound.
It really feels that way. The news coming out of the big three, we're talking GM and Ford primarily, is that they are making a desperate, scrambling U-turn back to sedans.
It is a stunning reversal, a complete 180. Think about the last 10 years. What was the strategy out of Detroit?
Bigger is better. Trucks and SUVs.
That's all it was. They killed the sedan. They methodically stopped making the Ford Fusion, the Chevy Cruze, the Focus. They looked at the spreadsheets and said, Americans love big cars. Americans love SUVs. The margins on a pickup truck are huge. So they went all in. They stopped making cars and started making, well, tanks.
It was the era of cheap money, right? Low interest rates meant everyone could finance a tank. You could get a loan for 84 months at 2%.
Exactly. The financing made it possible. But now reality has mugged them. The source cites a national affordability crisis. The average new vehicle price is now over $50,000.
$50,000
Yeah.
for an average car.
Average. And interest rates are way higher than they were a decade ago. The result is that people literally cannot afford these trucks anymore. The monthly payment on a new Ford F-150 is more than a mortgage used to be in some parts of the country. The consumer is just completely tapped out.
And at the same time, didn't they also lose a ton of money on electric vehicles? Because that was the other part of the plan, right? Build big, expensive electric trucks.
That's the other half of the disaster, a double whammy. The source uses the word incinerated. They have incinerated over $50 billion on EV misadventures.
$50 billion.
They bet the entire farm on a rapid government-mandated transition to EVs. But with the collapse of those federal mandates and consumer demand just cooling off, that capital is gone. It's just smoke.
So let me get this straight. They have empty dealer lots filled with expensive trucks nobody can afford. They have huge smoking craters in their balance sheets from failed EV projects. And they have no affordable cars to sell to the person who just needs to get to work.
You've nailed it. That's the corner they've backed themselves into.
But you know who does have affordable cars?
Oh, I do. Toyota. Honda. Hyundai.
They never left the segment. They never gave up on the sedan.
And never left. While Detroit was chasing the high-end luxury truck market, the Japanese and Korean automakers just kept quietly refining the sedan. They kept their supply chains tight for smaller, more efficient cars. The source has a killer stat on this.
What is it?
Toyota's share of the sedan market grew from 12% to 22%, while Detroit was basically sleeping. They just played the long game. They were patient.
So the trade here seems pretty obvious, right? It sounds like Detroit is in a world of hurt.
It's a classic pair trade. The source is very clear on this. Long Toyota, TM, short Ford, and GM. Detroit is now scrambling to retool factories, design new sedans from scratch, and that takes years. You can't just snap your fingers and start making Civics.
You need dies, you need assembly lines, you need a whole new engineering process.
A whole new muscle that they let atrophy. Meanwhile, Toyota is selling cars today. It's a textbook case of operational excellence versus a strategic scramble.
You know, there's a really poignant story in the source that connects this auto crisis to something even deeper, the crisis in American agriculture. It's not just about suburban families not being able to afford a new SUV. It's about the farmers who actually feed us.
This was the part of the source that really struck me. Emotionally. It's a small anecdote, but it tells the entire story. It mentions a 74-year-old farmer in the Midwest.
Okay.
He's driving a 1990s-era truck. It's falling apart. You can picture it, right?
Yeah.
Rust on the wheel wells. The engine is rattling. But he refuses to replace it.
Why not? Is it just because he's frugal? Farmers are known for being careful with money, stretching every dollar.
It's so much deeper than that. He says, and this is a direct quote, he has no one to pass it along to.
Oh, wow.
His children have left the farm. They took corporate jobs in the city. They're accountants or software engineers now. He is the end of the line for his family's farm. So he asks, why would I invest $80,000 in a new heavy-duty truck if the farm dies with me?
That is absolutely heartbreaking. It just paints this vivid picture of a hollowed-out rural economy, a whole way of life just ending.
It's the end of an era.
But we have to put our investor hats back on, as cold as that feels. What does this mean for the market? Where's the investment thesis in this tragedy?
It points to a huge macro trend, the death of the family farm and the concurrent rise of corporate consolidation in agriculture. The demographics are just stark. The source says there are now more farmers over the age of 75 than under the age of 35.
That's a demographic cliff. It's not sustainable.
It's a collapse. So as these older farmers retire or pass away, the land isn't going to their kids. It's being bought up by massive corporate agricultural entities, private equity, institutional investors.
And those corporate entities, I'm guessing, don't drive 1990s trucks?
They absolutely do not. And that leads directly to the investment thesis, which the source admits is a bit heartless. It's a purely financial, unsentimental observation.
What is it?
The thesis is, buy Deere, D.
Wait a minute, that seems counterintuitive. If the number of farmers is plummeting, why would you buy the tractor company? Isn't their customer base shrinking?
Because the type of buyer is changing. The family farmer is frugal. They fix the old equipment with duct tape and baling wire. They stretch every single dollar. The corporate farm, on the other hand, is focused on one thing: efficiency and yield per acre.
They have capital to spend.
They have capital. They have investors demanding returns. So what do? They buy the autonomous tractors, the GPS-guided combines, the high-tech drones that spray fertilizer with millimeter precision. Corporate consolidation means more spending on high-tech automation to replace the human labor that doesn't exist anymore in these rural areas.
So the decline of the family farm is actually a bullish signal for industrial agriculture technology.
Exactly. It's a capital squeeze. The small guys are squeezed out, the big guys take over, and the big guys buy the robots. It's a brutal cycle, but from a balance sheet perspective, it's a massive growth story for Deere. They are selling the very automation that replaces the farmer.
It's a brutal, brutal cycle. And speaking of brutal cycles, let's pivot from the farm fields of America to the battlefields of Europe. Let's talk about Ukraine.
Okay, so we're recording this in February 2026. The situation on the ground has shifted dramatically from where it was a year or two ago. The source describes a very clear and widening gap between Kyiv and Washington.
This is the endgame narrative we've been hearing rumors about, but what is actually happening behind closed doors, according to Manal?
The source says the Trump administration is applying immense, almost unbearable pressure on Zelensky. The explicit goal is to force a deal, to finalize a settlement by May of this year.
By May, that's just a few months away.
A very aggressive timeline. The source says that all the diplomatic language you're hearing coming out of the Munich Security Conference, which is happening right now, is just a thin veil for a coming ultimatum.
And what does that ultimatum, that deal, look like? What are the terms being floated?
It's a painful pill for Ukraine to swallow. It very likely involves ceding the Donbas region to Russia in exchange for hard, NATO-like security guarantees from the West.
A land for peace deal, essentially.
That's what it boils down to. Now, publicly, Zelensky is still demanding a full ceasefire before any elections or concessions. He has to stay strong for his people, for his domestic audience. But Manal suggests this is largely a negotiation tactic. The reality is that the patrons, the West, and specifically the U.S., are dictating the timeline now. There is deep Ukraine fatigue in the capitals of the West. They want this conflict wrapped up.
So if the war is ending, or at least entering a frozen phase where the shooting stops, where does the money go? Because war consumes capital, but peace, or at least the rebuilding after a war, consumes even more.
That is exactly the point the source makes. It says, don't look at the battlefield map anymore. Look at the post-war balance sheets. We are on the cusp of a Marshall Plan 2.0.
Reconstruction.
Yeah.
A massive rebuilding effort.
Massive. We aren't just talking about patching a few holes in the road. We are talking about modernizing the entire Ukrainian electrical grid, building new green steel plants, constructing new housing for millions of displaced people.
A complete overhaul of the country's infrastructure.
Yes. And Zelensky is already laying the groundwork. He's floating the idea of free economic zones to attract Western firms. He knows that to rebuild, he needs foreign capital. He needs the West to be invested in Ukraine's success financially, not just morally or militarily. The source predicts a massive, massive influx of investment.
So we are right back to our revenge of the physical world theme. Who builds the roads and the power plants and the steel mills?
It's the usual suspects. Caterpillar, CAT, for all the earth moving. You need bulldozers and excavators before you can build anything.
And deer again.
Dear DE, again, absolutely. For the agricultural redevelopment, you have to remember, Ukraine is the breadbasket of Europe. That land is incredibly valuable. And then you have the big engineering giants, firms like AECOM or Jacobs. The trade is to front-run the peace deal. You buy the builders before the ink is dry on the treaty.
The risk, obviously, is that the peace talks completely collapse and it goes back to a hot war. That's a huge, huge risk.
That is the big risk, a frozen conflict breakdown. But the source argues the incentive structure is just too strong right now. Washington is impatient. Future aid is being explicitly tied to a peace deal. The forced peace, as they call it, is the most probable outcome for 2026.
And the markets hate uncertainty, but they love a construction boom.
They absolutely love a construction boom. And if the guns go silent in Ukraine, you're going to hear the sound of concrete mixers spinning for the next decade.
Okay, so we've covered trucks, cars, farms, and now entire war zones. I want to move to one of my favorite sections of this intelligence stack. It's called the second order oracle.
I love this concept. It's so powerful. It's about looking at a news headline that everyone sees and finding the hidden ripple effect that nobody else is paying attention to. Most people stop at the first order. Event A happened.
And second order thinking asks.
And then what? What happens next because of that?
Let's start with a big one, the reputation purge. We've seen some really high-profile resignations recently, all circling back to the Epstein files.
Yes. Two big ones this month. We have Casey Wasserman, a huge name in Hollywood, putting his entire talent agency up for sale. And at the same time, the CEO of DP World, one of the biggest port operators in the world, suddenly resigned. Both events, turns out, were triggered by newly revealed ties to Jeffrey Epstein.
This is years after Epstein died. Why is this still happening now? You would think all the skeletons were already out of the closet.
Because we are in what the source calls a post-Epstein files era of zero tolerance. Boards of directors are terrified. They are actively purging anyone with what they call legacy liability.
Legacy liability.
Okay. If there is a crude email, a name on a flight log, a photo, anything, you are out. The reputational risk to the company is now priced higher than the talent or value of the executive. Companies simply cannot afford the association anymore.
So where is the trade? Because normally when a CEO quits in scandal, the stock just drops and that's the end of it.
The trade is in the distress. Take the Wasserman Agency. This is a premium A-list asset. It represents top talent in sports, music, film. But the owner, Wasserman, has to sell. He's a distressed seller. He has no leverage in the negotiation. So who loves a distressed seller?
Private equity. The vultures are circling.
Private equity. The source specifically names KKR, Apollo. The play is to buy the firms that feast on these forced sales. They get by $1 for 50 cents because the seller just wants out of the headlines. It's ruthless, but it's finance. The reputation economy creates incredible bargains for those who don't care about the story, only the price.
Okay, next case. Amazon rang. This was a huge story. They pulled their Super Bowl ad and canceled all their police partnerships. That's a massive strategic shift.
This is what the source calls the creepy factor trade. For years, the undisputed trend in consumer tech was connect everything, film everything. We invited cameras into our living rooms, onto our doorbells.
The smart home.
Right. But now, there is a structural shift in public sentiment. People are getting genuinely uncomfortable with the idea of ambient surveillance. The backlash is real. It's not just privacy advocates anymore. It's suburban moms saying, wait a minute, I don't want the police having a back door to access my doorbell camera. The implication is that consumer surveillance tech may have finally hit a wall.
That's fascinating. So maybe the smart home isn't as inevitable as we thought if it feels too much like Big Brother.
Okay, next one on the list. Game of Thrones and Belfast. This seems completely random.
This is a fun one and a great example of second-order thinking. Northern Ireland is experiencing a film and television production boom. Why?
Let me guess. Game of Thrones. Exactly. They built these massive, state-of-the-art studio facilities to film Game of Thrones. The show ended years ago, but the studios are still there. The sound stages, the post-production facilities, everything.
And the talent is there too, I'd imagine. All the experienced crews, the lighting guys, the makeup artists, they all live there now.
Precisely. They built an entire ecosystem. So who noticed this? Sony. The source points out that Sony quietly bought a small production company called Hot Sauce Pictures in Belfast.
Hot Sauce Pictures. I love that.
The alpha here, the hidden opportunity, is that these regional hubs places that aren't Hollywood or London are becoming the new centers of production because they are high-tech but low-cost. Sony is capitalizing on that arbitrage. They are essentially buying the world-class infrastructure that HBO paid billions to build.
That is a brilliant move. And finally in this section, Uber Eats versus Europe.
Right. So Uber just launched its food delivery service, Uber Eats, in 7 new European markets. Now, normally when a giant like Uber enters a market, your first instinct is to sell the incumbent.
Right, crush the competition.
And the main incumbent here is a company called Wolt, which is owned by DoorDash. So the knee-jerk reaction on Wall Street was, Uber is here, sell DoorDash.
So sell DoorDash, DAS.
No, the source says the exact opposite. They say buy DoorDash.
Explain that. That makes no sense. Uber is coming for their lunch? Literally.
It's the duopoly theory. When a behemoth like Uber enters a new market so aggressively, they validate the market size. They prove there's a huge opportunity. But more importantly, their massive spending on marketing, on restaurant subsidies, on driver incentives, it completely crushes the small local players.
The little guys.
The little guys can't possibly compete with Uber's war chest, so they die. They go bankrupt. And who is left standing at the end of the bloodbath?
Uber and DoorDash.
Just the two of them. They get to split the entire market. A duopoly is infinitely more profitable for both companies than a fragmented market with a dozen competitors. Once the little guys are gone, Uber and DoorDash can stop the brutal price wars and start raising their fees.
So it clears the board for them.
Exactly. It's counterintuitive strategy 101. Uber is actually doing DoorDash a massive favor by killing all the rest of their competition for them.
That is fascinating. It's like Godzilla entering the city. King Kong doesn't run away. He waits for Godzilla to smash all the smaller monsters first.
A very colorful way to put it, but yes, that's the dynamic.
All right, buckle up, everyone. We are moving from market engineering to molecular engineering. This is the deep science section. Now, I have to admit, I looked at these notes and I saw words like proteolysis targeting chimeras, and my eyes started to glaze over. But you promised to make this simple.
I promise. We can do this. We're going to talk about protein degraders, and it's one of those exciting things happening in medicine today.
Okay, lay the foundation for us. Why should I, a non-scientist, care about protein degrader?
Okay, think of your body's cells like a little house. In a healthy house, you take out the trash regularly, right? Everything's clean and orderly. But in diseases like cancer or Alzheimer's, you have garbage, bad, toxic proteins that start to pile up inside the house.
Okay, I'm with you. Garbage in the house. In Alzheimer's, that garbage is amyloid plaque.
Exactly. And in cancer, it's proteins that are constantly telling the cell to grow and divide uncontrollably. Now, for decades, regular drugs, what we call inhibitors, have worked like trying to cover up the garbage with a blanket.
Hiding the mess.
They sit on top of the bad protein and stop it from working for a little while. But the garbage is still there. If the blanket falls off, if the drug wears off, the protein starts causing problems again. It's a temporary fix.
You aren't actually cleaning the house.
Right. Now, protein degraders, specifically a technology called ProAttacks, are completely different. They are like a molecular garbage truck.
A garbage truck. Okay.
It's a molecule designed to do two things. One end grabs the bad protein, the garbage, and the other end grabs the cell's natural trash compactor, a structure called the proteasome. It physically drags the garbage to the trash compactor to be completely destroyed. It removes the problem entirely. It grinds it up into little pieces.
That sounds absolutely fantastic. It sounds like a cure, not just a temporary treatment. So what's the catch? Why aren't we all taking these for everything?
The catch was the shape of the truck. The first generation of these ProTac drugs were long, linear, sort of floppy molecules. Think of them like a long, straight piece of spaghetti. It turns out because they were so long and skinny, they were accidentally getting stuck inside the mitochondria.
The powerhouse of the cell. I remember that from high school biology, the cell's battery.
Exactly. And if the mitochondria is the battery of the house, these drugs were getting stuck in the battery terminals and clogging them up. That causes toxicity. The cell runs out of energy and dies. This is a huge, huge problem for early drugs like ARV-110, which treats prostate cancer. The drug worked on the cancer, but it was damaging the batteries in healthy cells at the same time.
So how do we fix the garbage truck so it stops breaking the battery?
You bend it. You make it a weird shape. The source calls this rational scaffold design. Scientists realized that if they intentionally put bumps or kinks in the middle of the molecule, making it rigid and oddly shaped instead of a straight line, It physically doesn't fit in the mitochondria anymore.
It's like bending a key just slightly so it doesn't fit in the wrong lock anymore.
That is a perfect analogy. By adding these kinks, the drug still grabs the garbage, it still takes it to the trash compactor, but it just bounces off the mitochondria. It makes the drug dramatically safer. This is a massive de-risking event for the entire field of medicine. It turns a promising but toxic concept into a viable, powerful medicine. It unlocks the true potential of the technology.
And this technological leap leads us to a potential new attack on ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease. This is a horrific disease with no real cure. How does the kinked garbage truck help here?
This is what the source calls the killer experiment. In ALS, there's a specific protein called TDP-43 that clumps up in the brain and spinal cord. It's the trash that's piling up and killing the nerve cells. For years, most drugs have tried to dissolve the trash after it's already formed. It hasn't worked. The pile is just too big, too established.
So what's the new idea? What's the killer experiment?
Don't target the trash. Target the machine that is building the trash pile. The source identifies an enzyme called TIM32 as the potential culprit. The theory is, use one of these new, safe kink degraders to seek out and destroy TIM32. If you destroy the builder, the trash never piles up in the first place.
That is a completely different way of thinking about the disease. You're not cleaning up the mess. You're preventing the mess from ever being made. You're cutting off the supply chain of the disease.
It is a profound shift in strategy. And if it works, the source estimates this could be a $15 billion opportunity. More importantly, it just changes the game for neurodegeneration. It offers real, tangible hope where there really hasn't been any for a long, long time.
And speaking of neurodegeneration, let's talk about the biggest one of all, Alzheimer's. The source mentions a connected dot between Alzheimer's and pancreatic cancer. That seems like a massive stretch.
It does on the surface, but hear me out. This is fascinating. For decades, we thought Alzheimer's was just about amyloid plaque. The thesis was simple: clear the plaque, fix the brain. But we've run multi-billion-dollar trials that successfully cleared the plaque, and the patients didn't get better.
Right, the drugs largely failed. It was a huge disappointment.
This new research, highlighted in the source, says it's not just the plaque itself. It's about the immune system's reaction to the plaque, especially in the brain's blood vessels.
Okay, explain that.
There are specialized immune cells in the brain called macrophages, specifically subarachnoid macrophages. Think of them as the hyper-aggressive security guards of the brain. When they see amyloid plaque building up in the blood vessels, they freak out. They go on high alert. They try to eat the plaque, but in the process, they release all these inflammatory chemicals that actually damage the walls of the blood vessels. This is why many Alzheimer's patients have microbleeds in the brain.
So the security guards are trashing the lobby while they're trying to catch a burglar. They're causing more damage than the intruder.
That's a perfect way to put it. They're causing more damage than the intruder. The source identifies a specific switch on these immune cells, a protein called CD39. The theory is if you can find a way to flip that switch, you can calm the security guards down. You can stop the friendly fire, the inflammation.
And this is where pancreatic cancer comes in.
This is the connected dot. There's an experimental drug called ADT-030. It's a PDE10 inhibitor, and it's being developed for pancreatic cancer. But it turns out the same mechanism of action might work to flip the CD39 switch and calm down these macrophages in the brain.
So you could potentially repurpose a cancer drug to treat the vascular damage component of Alzheimer's.
That is the hope. It's about connecting dots that are miles apart: immunology, oncology, and neurology. It's the kind of insight you only get when you look at the whole board and the fundamental mechanisms. It's about treating the response to the disease, not just the disease itself.
That is heavy stuff, but absolutely incredible if it works. It really feels like we are on the cusp of a whole new era of medicine there. Okay, let's take a breath. We've done the heavy lifting on the science. Now let's do the forensic watch list. This is the rapid fire round. I'm going to throw a ticker at you and you tell me, is it a gem or is it a trap? What's the story?
Let's do it.
First up, Geopark,
Yep.
GPRK, an oil company.
Okay, GPRK. The immediate concern here is Twitter bots. There is a massive, and I mean massive, volume of low-quality spam promoting this stock. It's all over the place. Usually that screams retail pump and dump. If you search the ticker, it's just garbage tweets from anonymous accounts.
So a red flag.
A huge red flag. But here's the contrarian twist. The source actually likes the underlying asset. They have oil drilling rights in the Vaca Muerta field in Argentina, which is a world-class shale deposit. The oil is real. The flow rates are good, so the investment thesis is buy the asset, ignore the bots.
It's a strange case where the fundamentals might be good despite the sketchy promotion.
So look at the drill logs, not the hashtags.
Very interesting.
Okay, next up, Angie Inc. ANGI. This used to be Angie's List for home services.
Angie, the key fact here is that it's trading near its cash value. The entire market capitalization of the company is almost equal to the cash they have sitting in the bank. That's extremely rare.
So the question is it a value trap, meaning the business is dying and is just going to burn through all that cash on its way to zero? Or is it a floor, a point of maximum pessimism? The source thinks if they can just stabilize the business, don't even grow, just stop bleeding cash, the stock could double from here. It's a pure balance sheet play. You're buying $1 for $1 with a free business attached as a call option.
A turnaround story, maybe? Okay, American Superconductor, AMSC.
This one is simple, the grid. We talked about EV charging, we talked about AI data centers, we talked about electrifying home heating with heat pumps. All of this puts an immense strain on an electric grid that is, in some places, a century old. It has to be upgraded. This company, AMSC, isn't a niche player anymore. They are selling non-discretionary grid upgrades. You have to fix the grid or the lights go out. The source calls this a secular non-discretionary grid upgrade cycle play. It's not sexy, but it's essential.
And finally, a biotech, Sangamo, SGMO.
This is the casino bet on the list. The market has priced this company for bankruptcy. The stock chart looks like it fell off a cliff. The market thinks they're dead. But they have a drug for a rare genetic condition called Fabry disease. The drug is ST920, and the early data actually looks like it works.
So there's a flicker of hope?
A flicker of hope. If they successfully submit their application, the BLA, to the FDA, this isn't a 10% gain. This could be a 2x or 3x return, maybe more. But if they fail, it probably goes to zero. It is the definition of high risk, high reward.
So don't put your mortgage on it.
Definitely not. Put your Vegas money on it if you have any.
All right, we have covered a massive amount of ground today, from karaoke-inspired AI panic to the molecular scaffolding of our own cells. So what is the big takeaway? What is the single thread connecting all of this?
I think the central theme is fear versus fundamentals. That's the battle being waged in the market right now. Look at the logistics story. Fear of AI, a ghost story, is making people sell fundamentally profitable companies with real, tangible moats.
The narrative is beating the reality.
Exactly. Look at Amazon Ring or the Wasserman Agency. Fear of reputational damage or the creepiness factor is forcing asset sales and strategic shifts. But then look at the other side. Look at the physical reality.
Right.
The farmers aren't buying tractors because of vibes. They're driven by the hard fundamentals of demographics and capital constraints. Detroit isn't pivoting back to sedans because they want to. They are being forced to by the physical reality of consumer wallets. Ukraine is moving toward a forced peace, not because of ideals, but because of the cold, hard fundamentals of balance sheets and political timelines.
So it's like the market is constantly distracted by these flashy, scary narratives on the screen, while the physical world, the dirt, the steel, the biology, is doing the real steering of the ship.
That's it. That is the whole thesis in a nutshell. The alpha, the opportunity, is found where the narrative conflicts with the physics. When the story says one thing, but the reality on the ground says another, that is where you find the mispricing. That is where you make money. Don't let the ghost stories scare you away from the machinery.
I want to leave our listeners with one final provocative thought. We started this whole deep dive with the AI ghost story in trucking. We kind of laughed about how karaoke companies scared Wall Street and how you can't really automate a flat tire in a blizzard.
Right. The limits of AI in the physical world.
But the source had one more little nugget tucked away in a section called the Private Venture Radar, a company I had never heard of.
Ah, yes. OpenClaw AI.
OpenClaw. They are building autonomous AI agent fleets. Now, these aren't just chatbots that write emails. These are agents that can perform complex, multi-step tasks on computer systems, live and unsupervised.
Right. They aren't just writing text. They are doing things. Executing code, managing complex cloud workflows, filing forms, moving money, digital labor.
So here is the provocative thought for everyone to chew on. We spent this whole hour talking about how the market panic over AI in the trucking industry was probably wrong because you can't automate a flat tire. But OpenClaw isn't trying to change a tire. They are operating purely in the white-collar world, the digital world.
That is the irony, isn't it?
While everyone is watching the trucks on the highway, terrified that a robot is going to take the wheel, are the agent fleets from companies like OpenClaw quietly taking over the offices? Maybe the trucking panic was just misdirected. Maybe the real ghost is already in the machine, and it's coming for the guys writing the white papers, not the guys driving the trucks.
That is a very unsettling thought to end on. But it might just be the most profitable one of the entire deep dive.
That's what we do here. Thanks for taking the deep dive. We'll see you next time.